Okay, seems like we are setting up for our next run, which will be Grim Fandango Remastered, any percent, ran by Konception2. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name's Konception2, and we're going to be running Grim Fandango. The remaster version came out in 2015. So if you're unfamiliar, this is a very fun point-and-click adventure game, but it's not so simple as you might think. It's not just solving the puzzles. There's a lot of tech to it, which we'll get to demonstrate here. But for now, we can just get started. So if we are ready on the timer, I'm all set. All right, we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck with your run.
Thank you so much. So, if you're unfamiliar, Grim Fandango, we're playing as the main character here. His name is Manny. Manny, like everybody in this world, is in the land of the dead, so they have unfortunately passed away from real life. But what that means for them is that they have to figure out a way to continue on to the afterlife. And what Manny's position is he is a travel agent for the dead, more or less. So everyone, based on how they were in their life, you know, if they were kind, if they were good, and everything like that, deserves some level of travel package, be it a hard journey or a silver bullet Class A train to the afterlife. And that's kind of how it ranges there. And the problem that Manny is having is, for some reason, all of his clients, no matter what, get the worst travel package, and he can't really figure out why. Even when some of his clients are really good in their life, he can't figure out why they're not getting good packages. So he's going to start investigating here and figuring out what exactly is going on at his, you know, little travel agency of the dead position here. So like I said, this is a point-and-click adventure game. There is a lot of speed tech that actually goes into it, a lot of movement-based speed tech, to be specific. So you'll see a lot of times I will be pulling out inventory items while moving, which is absolutely not what the game intends for you to do. You're not meant to be able to take out your inventory items while you're moving. However, if you use your mouse to click on a transition point and then let the game kind of automatically move you while you're in your inventory, the game doesn't really know what to do. And therefore, you are able to access anything in your inventory while moving, which saves us a lot of time over the run. You'll also notice as well, if you've played this game before, this is a very famous adventure game from the 90s, a LucasArts adventure game in the same vein as like Monkey Island or Day of the Tentacle and things like that. Hold on one second here, let me just focus on clicking these proper options so we don't have any extra dialogue. But you will notice, like I mentioned, that hold on one second. There we go. Oops. That particular area takes a lot of my focus. So one second. All right, there we go. Perfect. But we are playing on the remaster version is what I was going to say. So graphics are updated. So it might look a lot different than if you played it in the 90s when it came out. But you might have also realized from then that we don't have voice lines on currently, and that is because that will actually save us a lot of time through the run. You can notice that I'm mashing furiously through text whenever I can, which saves us a lot of time. And if we have voice lines on, for whatever reason, for some of these cutscenes or dialogue sequences that are unskippable, if we have the voice lines on, we have to wait for the cutscene to play out the entirety of the voice line. However, if we turn voice lines off, we just have to let the text appear on the screen for its determined amount of time, and then it'll disappear. And that tends to be a lot faster than waiting for voice lines to complete. So while this has some incredible voice acting, I suggest you play it casually. And then just to see exactly how great the voice acting is. We won't get to hear it here, unfortunately, because we are trying to go fast. All right, so up the elevator we go. You might have noticed near the beginning, we talked to our large demon friend. His name is Glottis. We're going to see a lot of Glottis in this run. He's kind of our companion through this whole journey. So you're going to see him quite a bit. skip this cutscene here. It's worth noting as well. So I am playing on the PC version of this game, which is very much faster. That is because any console version of this game, which there are many, Switch, PS4, you know, Xbox, you can play it on anything, which I highly suggest. But however, there are a few things that are absolutely optimized in the PC version that are not going to be on the console version, namely the ability to skip text as fast, for one, but two, navigating our inventory is the big thing. If you are playing on the console version, you cannot use your keyboard to hit a specific item without flipping through the inventory. Should you be playing this on console, anytime that you want to go into your inventory, you have to go through a long process where you go into the inventory, flip through the item you need, select the item, and then it comes out. So it's a little bit of a process, unfortunately. Which we do use a lot of items in this game, so it's not like something that you can avoid. So any console run is probably at least 15 minutes or so slower over the corresponding PC run, unfortunately. So we have some balloons that we got from the street vendor outside. We have filled with some packing material. We're actually going to put down our mail chute here. And that is because we are intentionally sabotaging the mail system so that we can steal some mail from one of our coworkers and figure out who keeps getting all of the like good clients, quote unquote, slash all of the clients that are getting these expensive and flashy travel packages, regardless of how they were in life. And we want to see what's going on. So we need to sabotage the mail system so we can sneak some mail. There's like a very cool cutscene skip here. So we're actually gonna grab this fire extinguisher, and as we're walking, we move to activate the cutscene and put away the fire extinguisher at the same time, which skips a long animation where this worker catches on fire due to the sabotage that we did. It saves probably about 20 seconds, 15 seconds at least. But now that we twisted that lock to keep the door open so we can go into the mail system, we're gonna head right back in, open the door. And you might have noticed as well at the beginning we had a playing card that we hole punch, and that is so that the air filter from the pneumatic tubes will still pass through, but we can get to the mail and see where it's going. All right, so some more cutscene skips there. This person that was in our office, her name is Meche. Meche was spectacular in life. You know, charitable, kind, giving, you know, everything you'd want to be. And for whatever reason, she was given the worst travel package, which doesn't make any sense. Why would that be? We don't know. We have to figure it out. This is Salvador, who is running an underground resistance, also thinking something is weird going on. Strangely enough, the resistance is being run directly through the basement of the building. So Salvador and the secretary, who is also in on it, are running this underground resistance group, so we can figure out what is happening around here. We're gonna sneak into our coworker Domino's office, where there's gonna be a few key items. First, we got to grab this trophy out of his desk, which is going to be very key coming up right away. Oops, got to put away the thing. Oops, there we go. Put it away. There we go. Now we're going to hit this punching bag a few times in order to knock off the mouth guard and take that. Now, it's a little gross, right? You know, it's a mouth guard. We don't want to touch anyone else's mouth guard, but keep in mind, we are skeletons, so they probably don't have saliva. It's not that big of a deal if you think about it that way. So we're going to take out this trophy that we immediately used, and we're going to hook it to this rope that we gathered. We can actually skip the animation for the attaching it, and it creates a grappling hook of sorts, which is great because we need to get across and up to the roof. Why do we need to get up to the roof, you might ask? Wonderful question. The resistance group, the underground resistance group that Salvador is running down there, needs a way to be able to pass communication all across the land of the dead. And they're going to do this in a little bit old-fashioned. They're going to use pigeons. But they can't use pigeons that are already, you know, fully grown, because you can't train fully grown pigeons. Everyone knows that. So we have to get some baby pigeons. So what we do is, before, we grabbed an inflated balloon, and we also grabbed a loaf of bread here. So what's going to happen is the pigeons will fly over to get the bread. However, they'll accidentally pop the balloon, scaring themselves, and then we will have access to their nest, which is in this pipe right over here. Genius. Absolutely genius. Again, pigeons, a little dated. I mean, granted, this is a 90s game, but you saw they have pneumatic tubes for mail, at least. You know, that's got to be faster, but when you work in the underground, you got to do what you can. All right, so we grab our egg, and we're going to make our way off of the roof here. We're going to make our way down the rope again. And we're actually going to go back in the same area that we were where we first met Glottis. We're actually going to take out that mouth guard from before. And weirdly enough, the computers in our office have like some kind, not DNA because we don't have DNA, but like some kind of activation based off of everyone personally. For example, we need to get a mold of our teeth in order to be able to access the computer because, you know, 90s, I guess. Actually, we want to keep that out if we can. Come on. Keep walking, Manny. So we're going to keep that out. We now made a mold of our teeth. We're going to head back into the resistance base. We're going to give that to our resistance people here so they can get into the computer and start doing some espionage. So lore-wise, what's happening here is we're actually about to escape from this area. We've been fired for asking questions and, you know, tampering with the mail and all that. Makes sense, kind of. And now we need to escape because we were meant to be trapped in that room, but luckily the resistance leader helped us out there. So we have to get out of here, and not only do we have to get out of here for our own safety, Manny has felt an attachment to Meche from his office here, and he really wants her to get the package that she deserves, but unfortunately she just started on a 4-year-long journey to get to the afterlife, basically on foot, because she got the worst travel package, which is just not ideal. So not only are we escaping for our own safety, we need to find Meche so we can get her the ticket that she deserves. So we grabbed a few of these bones from this pile, put them in our pocket for later, and then that's actually Glottis's heart that was stuck to the web. Glottis can be a little bit dramatic at times, kind of ripped his own heart out and through it, but that's fine. We love Glottis. By the way, Glottis, and I think everyone here would appreciate this, is a speed demon, as you can tell. So his heart is kind of like a motor in a way. And then what Glottis does for us a lot of times is be our like getaway driver in this rocket car of sorts. So that's Glottis's function. Keep note that we run into this sign here. That'll be slightly important for later. Now, I always love bringing this part up. So this run is broke up into 4 years, basically. Like I had mentioned, Meche is on a 4-year-long journey. That process, if you get the bottom base package, it takes 4 years to get to the afterlife. You have to kind of work your way through it, find ways to get to the afterlife gates, you know, by maybe earning your time or, you know, figuring it out and journeying on foot. It takes a long time. So the run is also broken up into 4 years. We're still in year 1 for right now, but coincidentally, I believe every year has one small RNG point. You wouldn't think RNG exists in a point-and-click adventure game, but it sure does. And this is going to be kind of the RNG point for year 1 here. We have to solve this tree farm puzzle, and I'm actually going to focus a little bit on it, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. 1 second. There we go. That actually was pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie. That took a very, very long time. But that's okay. So what happens there is we have to make the tree uneven. It's kind of I like to call that the tree farm because I don't really petrified tree farm rather. So what we have to do is we have to make that tree uneven so our way is no longer blocked so the car can get through. The way we do that is while Gloss is standing on it, we want the gears to be equal on each side so it achieves maximum wobbliness, more or less, and then it falls. The RNG portion of that is whatever cycle you end up on, you want to be on a fast cycle where you can just wheel the wheelbarrow over the wires and basically do it in one swoop so that you can solve the puzzle at its fastest. I did not get so lucky and I had to really adapt to get that puzzle solved, but we got there, which is the important thing. You saw also I yanked that sign out of the ground and then brought it into a next area to solve another puzzle. So what we're meant to do there is actually go around that whole area with the sign, and the sign will turn and point in different directions as it has an arrow on top until we have put the sign directly in the ground to the point that it opens up that secret passage. However, the point is the same every time, so we can just walk directly over to the point that it's supposed to be in and then just move on. Speed tech. Here's the next obstacle of this forest here, is that we have a beaver issue. So these are flaming bone beavers. They are very much attracted to eating bones. And we have to figure out a way around them. Now, luckily, we already have figured it out pretty much. We grabbed 3 bones, as you remember. We're actually going to throw them in this lake of what I believe is like oil or sludge of some sort. Take out our fire extinguisher. As they jump in to get the bone, we will douse them so that they are no longer on fire, which is really the main reason why we can't go by, apparently. I'm going to take out another bone here. I'm going to throw it, and we're going to extinguish. Wash, rinse, repeat. And you guessed it, you saw 3 beavers. We got to do that one more time. One more time for you. Bone. Extinguisher. There's actually a little bit of RNG as to how fast the beavers move up the rock as well, so that can actually throw off our time a little bit. Luckily, we got decent cycles on that so that the beavers move a little bit quickly. There we go. We're going to use this key we gathered a bit ago. All right, and now we're actually in an area called Rubikava, which is where year 2 is going to take place. But we're still in year 1 a little bit. We got to finish up year 1 just ever so slightly. We got a few things we got to solve here. If you remember all the way back near the beginning of the game, there was somebody that I removed from a body bag, and that is because they had recently passed and had made their way into the afterlife. And that person's name is Celso, and this is Celso actually. Celso wasn't particularly good in life, so it wasn't a huge surprise to Manny that he did not get the best travel package. But he wasn't awful. You know, Manny thought Celso maybe deserved, like, you know, not the lowest package, but not the highest package, but he got the absolute lowest. But that is kind of what spurred Manny's suspicions on to begin with. And Celso is on a journey to find his wife, actually, as well. So Celso is kind of like a side character that kind of helps us see our progress over the course of the 4 years. And we'll see Celso 1 or 2 other times in the run. But for now, we're going to tell Celso we found out where his wife is, and she's actually already been through here and left. So Celso is going to pursue her, which gives us this job at the diner, where we will then wait for Meche in a similar fashion. And now we are in year 2. Now, in terms of length, year 1 is a decently normal length, you know, in comparison to year 2, especially. Year 2 is by far the longest. and then year 3 is by far the shortest. So we do some movement between here. Come on. So in the year since we have now been here from our old position, we've actually turned that little like diner looking thing into a cafe and casino. Rubikava has really come up lately, so there's been some changes. Oops. I think I'm good, actually. I had to, that particular dialogue sequence is a little tricky because you have to select the right options or you can't actually progress the story. So I had to make sure that I selected the right ones. So I had to focus on that for a little bit, but we're good, I believe. And this is the Blue Casket, which is like a jazz nightclub and hookah bar. Which we'll pop in and out here occasionally, just to grab some items that we're going to need for the run as well. For example, we're going to grab this book here. We're going to skip that cutscene and head back out. We got a trusty elevator, luckily, that will take us basically back up to the front where we were, our cafe. And we gotta meet some rather interesting individuals here. As you can imagine, in a town that has kind of turned into a casino town, it can bring across some individuals who might not be so savory, namely some mobster type criminals, which we're gonna see. But luckily Glottis is still here. Speed demon, but also a brilliant pianist, as it turns out. Speaking of seedy individuals, we have our friend Charlie here. Now, what we have discovered in the story is that Meche has actually been through Rubikava and has left on her own as well on a ship. So we need to get on a ship. However, there's we talked to the ship captain. There's only one spot open on the ship, and the person that is needed needs to be someone mechanical, someone who can help like manage the ship's engineering and things like that, which Glottis fits that bill because Glottis has a lot of knowledge when it comes to vehicles and machines. However, we need a spot for us on the ship as well, which the captain coincidentally told us that if a spot opens up on the ship, then we can take it, which is great because we're going to ensure that a spot opens up on the ship. So that's a few things that we need to do. Namely, so we have to ensure that a spot opens up on the ship, obviously. We also have to ensure that Glottis has the tools he needs for the job. And we also have to make sure that we join the Maritime Union, or at least appear as if we have membership in the Maritime Union, which what we'll do is we will get a faux membership card from Charlie there. So that is where Charlie comes into this deal. However, in order for Charlie to get us those membership cards, we got to do a little ipso facto, do something for Charlie, so he'll do something for us. Oop, there we go. So we're going to head on. So like I said, this is turning into a casino town, and not just be based off the little casino that I have in the basement of my cafe here at Calavera Cafe. There's actually a much larger casino that you will see here in just a second. We're actually going to preemptively pull out this bottle of alcohol that we grabbed. And if you're familiar, it's kind of like Goldschlager. It's an alcohol that has, gold flakes in it. Here we go. Instead of the walking key, I accidentally hit my inventory key, so that's what happened there. And the fact that it has the gold flakes is going to be important here because we're going to be dealing with a metal detector. Now, this is a security guard here who has a bit of a crush on us. And so we're going to go through the metal detector and actually purposely get caught because we want this handheld metal detector that she has. So we're going to get caught to kind of like flirt with her a little bit and make it so that she will give us the metal detector. We won't need that metal detector for some time, but it will be important later on. So it is very important. But on the fortunate side, she's just a lovely person. We actually are going to have to kind of disappoint her and make her mad at us to get the to get the metal detector. Poor Carla. If you actually, fun fact, if you actually follow the dialogue options for a while in the segment, you can actually keep doing it for a long time. She'll actually start crying because she kind of just goes over some sad stuff in her life. And then not only that, we have to then disappoint her by not actually being interested in her, but wanting her for the metal detector. So it's not the best luck, but we do also have to go fast. So for the sake of the speed run, you know. All right, so this is, like I mentioned, not only is this a casino, but one thing that they can bet on is races, right? So, you know, normally you would expect to see like a horse race or maybe a dog race, but this is actually a giant cat race. And as you can see, we got giant cans of cat food as well as a giant litter box, unfortunately, which happens to be where that metal detector was thrown into. So we're going to use our scythe to pick it up as, yeah, we don't want to deal with giant cat poop. Yeah, this game's a little quirky, but it's very, very fun. I always highly suggest people play it casually because the story is really great and things like that. And it's just a fun, charming, good time. All right, we're actually going to head into the High Roller Lounge, which Charlie was able to give us access to, thankfully. And here we're going to talk to Nick, who is kind of like a mobster lawyer type person. And for some reason, this is one of the longest cutscenes in the game that we cannot mash through text or skip through faster. So if we happen to have any donations or plugs during this time, now it'd actually be pretty good. I do believe the reason why this cutscene isn't skippable is so we can see that key fall out. I think the game doesn't want us to skip through that and not realize what we're supposed to do, which kind of makes sense if you think about it.
I'm sorry, by the way, I forgot to unmute myself.
That's okay. No worries.
I'm professional. But when I have the time, I would like to thank ESA for supporting this marathon. Because besides writing up to the channel for streaming, they also share in their gear, they give us technical assistance and their sponsors. So be sure to check out ESA's next event, which will be Break the Record Live Minecraft, which will be taken part next week, alright, on this channel, so you don't even have to go far.
Excellent, thank you so much. So we're basically through this long cutscene. We have to convince Nick to go away so that we can grab the cigarette case, which has the key in it. So we're gonna grab it for now. We can't access the key. It seems to be locked behind a compartment that we can't access, despite Nick just bumbly dropping it and watching the key fall out for whatever reason. So it can't be that secure, but you know, here we are. Here we are in the kitchen, and the reason why Glottis is, you could have seen Glottis a little bit up near the top of the screen in the previous screen, and the reason why Glottis is here is because unfortunately Glottis is a little bit of a lush. Oops, I accidentally took this out apparently. Glottis is a little bit of a lush, likes to drink a little too much, unfortunately. So we're actually going to utilize that in order to get down to the secret compartment where Charlie's suitcase is. Because what we're going to do is we're going to empty this. The waiter's going to come through here. He's going to go in here to get more drink for Glottis. We're going to unfortunately lock the waiter in so that Glottis can't get any more drink. And then what's going to happen is we're not going to see it in a cutscene, but because we're going to skip the cutscene. But Glottis is going to come and empty a barrel out on his own, which has just happened. Now the barrel is empty. We're going to cut a hole in the top of it with the can opener that we grabbed. Oops. And then we're going to actually hide in the barrel so that that demon that came and grabbed the barrel earlier will then bring us down to like the empty barrels warehouse, which is coincidentally not far from where we need to go for Charlie's suitcase. So we're gonna grab this forklift, and here we have one of the most finicky things in the run, and it's finicky out of our control because it's based on frame rate. So what we're gonna do is we're going to turn this forklift as so. and then we're going to activate the elevator. What we're going to try to do is we need to get the elevator stuck by putting the forklift through these holes. You can only do it as the elevator is moving up and not down, and for some reason it will just fail because of modern technology. So 1 second here. Yep, it failed. So that's perfectly all right, because we create a save file just for this very moment, because otherwise we'd have to bring the elevator back down and then back up again, which we don't want to do. You might have also noticed that when I paused there, the menu looks very strange, and that's okay. The reason why it looks strange is because I'm playing the game in 4:3 in order to have less of a click space, which makes things obviously faster. But however, regardless of what mode you pick, 4:3 or 16:9 to play, the menu will always be in 16:9. So we cropped the game for 4:3, but when I go into the menu, it's still 16:9. So don't be alarmed if that looked a little strange to you. So we got Charlie's suitcase. That's wonderful. Okay. And we're going to return it to Charlie. There's actually, despite there being a cutscene here, we can actually skip to the text. And you might be wondering, so Charlie's got a gun on us because, again, he's not the most savory of characters. But you might be wondering, you know, we're in the land of the dead. We're already dead. What is a gun gonna do? But you also notice that the gun has this little flower icon on it, and that is because in the land of the dead, bones are particularly susceptible to sprouting. And what that means is when fertilizer hits bones, it causes a sprouting of like bushes and flora and things of that nature, which makes it so that we can no longer move or do anything. So that's kind of the equivalent of dying in the afterlife. All right, so weirdly enough, we're gonna take the cigarette case that we got and bring it back up to the security guard who kind of hates us now. For whatever reason, this casino has a security section that has this little vault that is not an explosive chamber in terms of if something's explosive, we put it down there, let it explode, and keep it out of the reach of people to avoid harm. But when it's a bomb chamber in the way that if you put something down there, it bombs it and explodes it for whatever reason. So I don't know why that would be, but that is indeed the case. So now we got the key, luckily, which we're going to use pretty promptly here. We just gotta make a pit stop first. And that pit stop is going to be within the blue casket once again. You might have seen, if you were an eagle-eyed viewer there, that we picked up a turkey baster while we were waiting for the waiter to come back. And that we're going to use right now as well. So we're going to fill the turkey baster with hookah water, and then we're going to leave. And you'll see exactly why that is in just a moment. But if you're keeping up, we got our Maritime Union cards now, so that's great. So that's one thing that we have to do, but we still need Gladises to have tools for the ship, which are going to be given to us by those worker bees. So we're going to convince the worker bees to go on strike, basically. However, when they go on strike, they're actually going to be imprisoned for, oops, I made a unnecessary, there we go, unnecessary dialogue options here. There we go. There we go. We're gonna give them this book, which gives advice on unionizing and going on strike and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they're imprisoned for it illegally, of course. There we go. Gonna kind of glitch through the door there because it was glitched open, so we're gonna glitch it right back. So we don't have their tools. They're imprisoned, so we can't get their tools yet. We have to get them out of prison, so that's another thing that we're gonna have to do now, unfortunately. But one thing we did, so we used the key to enter the lighthouse. We actually skipped a cutscene where there was a body up there, which is the body of Nick's girlfriend, or Max's girlfriend, who's kind of like the head of the casino. which is obviously problematic. But they, as she died, she gave us a coat check ticket, which we then took to our coat check person here. We got a specific code out, which gives us a tattoo card. And we're like, okay, so what does this mean? You know, we're going to take the tattoo card on over to the tattoo parlor and see if the tattoo artist has anything to say about it. You know, you just got to follow these, chains. It's an investigation. It's a noir. We got to make it mysterious and figure out what's going on here. There we go. Come on, Annie. Get through that door. All right. So on to the tattoo parlor. Now, if you recall, I just grabbed a baster full of hookah water, which is obviously pretty gross, not something you'd want to drink normally. And the reason is being, if you remember, I said we have to make it so somebody does not show up to work on the ship because we need a spot on the ship for ourselves. So that's what we're going to use the hookah water for. And coincidentally, in the tattoo parlor is one of the sailors named Naranja. So what we're going to do is Naranja is getting a tattoo and he has a drink. We're going to poison Naranja's drink with the hookah water to make him ill so he won't show up for work. So we gotta do that a couple different ways here. So we're going to open the fridge, which is going to make it so that the needle goes a little crazy, which is going to distract Naranja enough so that when I put the liquid in his bottle, he won't notice. Despite me standing directly next to it for whatever reason. But yeah, unfortunately, it looks like you could make that cycle earlier. You actually cannot. You have to wait for the animation to complete. So it's a little deceptive looking there. So Naranja passes out, which you'd think, great news for us, right? Naranja's not going to show up for work, so we're going to have a spot. Unfortunately, the tattoo artist is going to give a call over to the captain and say, I got Naranja here. He just passed out drunk, but I'll make sure he gets up in time for work. So that doesn't fully help us, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab Naranja's dog tags, which will be important for a little bit later. There we go. And this is the only time we actually have to flip through our inventory to get to something. And that is purely because we actually have so many items that, and usually items are bound to our number keys, right? So one through 0 even included. But because we actually have more than 10 items in our inventory at this point, we couldn't get there by key binding. So we actually have to flip through our inventory to get to the item we need. For some reason as well, our head glitches out. I have no explanation as to why, but it always comes back when we start walking again. All right, so we're going to use this fake betting slip machine that Charlie gave us all the way back at the beginning of year 2 here, and we're actually going to input a specific code to create a betting slip. Now, if you're playing the game casually, you're meant to like kind of explore, get a little bit more of a lore, and that's how you find out what you're supposed to put in to the betting machine there. However, the code is the same every time, so we skip a lot of time by just knowing what the code is. So we don't have to explore, we don't have to talk to people and learn about why that particular date is important to get the slip that we need. We just know where to go. So we got the slip. And then what we're going to do, the slip has procured us a picture of our kind of mobster scumbag lawyer guy, Nick, making out with his boss's Mac's girlfriend, which is definitely not a good look. And we're going to use that for a little bit of blackmail, but blackmail for good. Because we're going to force Nick to utilize his lawyer services to free the worker bees so that we have access to their tools. They're going to be so thankful they're going to give us their tools, which is great. And don't worry, we're going to get, even though we have to blackmail Nick, we're going to get a little bit of vindication on him for not being such a good guy. And that vindication is going to be coming up right about here. Just gotta get to this cutscene. Here we go. And boom, vindicated. I actually call that split vindication, and then I split exactly on the punch just for fun. Why not? You know, just to have a good time. All right, so we're actually almost done with year 2, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun. We have a couple of last things we need to do. So that metal detector that we got from the security guard is going to come in handy finally, because this is the mortician. All right, so we're gonna talk to the mortician here. You can actually, because of this, you can kind of see what it looks like when bodies are sprouted, right? They've turned into like this flora and bushes and are no longer, you know, moving or talking or doing anything of the sort. The mortician is having trouble identifying these bodies, which he's going to use the metal detector to help see if there's anything on the bodies that he can help use to identify. Coincidentally, we grabbed some metal dog tags from Naranja earlier, which we're going to throw on this body. Wonderful. So now the mortician thinks that this dead body is Naranja. Mortician's going to call the captain and say, unfortunately, Naranja is dead. So probably not going to show up for work, right? And that frees up the spot on the ship for us. So if you're keeping up, the 3 things we needed to do were get into the Maritime Union, get Glottis tools, and open up a spot for us on the ship so we can go, which we have satisfied all 3 of those requirements, which is great. But there is actually one last hidden requirement that we have to do, which is we have to secure the legacy of our little casino as we're about to leave it. So the only thing that is happening to confront the legacy of our little casino is that there's somebody who is actively cheating at the roulette table. And we have to stop them by turning off the cheating component, which is a magnet that's in the roulette, which we can do from our office. After we do that, we immediately head into year 3. All right, so this is the RNG component of year 2, by the way. I'll go into it a little bit more. Actually pretty fast. Okay, so the reason why that's RNG. So the roulette table, it's RNG as to what phase you're on in the roulette table. So you could be like right at the beginning. You could be halfway through a cycle, which you can't skip through. You know, you could be at all kinds of different levels, and for some reason, depending on where you are in the cycle, the turning off the mechanism won't work until you start the next cycle. Luckily, we coincidentally got in right at the beginning of a cycle, but we still had to mash through some text. That's why it wasn't fully optimal, but pretty optimal. But here we are in year 3. We took the boat here, but we actually got trapped by Domino. If you remember who Domino is one of our co-workers all the way back from the beginning. Domino has kind of pinned us down by capturing our ship. But we're going to find a very creative way out of this by splitting our ship in half. And then taking the side that has the motor. If you, like me, thought, you know, that probably wouldn't work. Don't worry, we're going to be vindicated because it doesn't really work out that well. It works out well enough for them to get away, but not well enough for them to fully escape, which we're about to see here. So we split the ship in half. Let's take this side here. And as you can see, the bottom half of our ship with the motor didn't last too long. We're stuck at the bottom of the sea. Luckily, we're already dead, so we don't have to worry about drowning or whatever. So, fun fact. So this little creature here with the lantern on its head is going to be very important for us. We have to make sure that we talk to him on this first time around. If for some reason I forgot to talk to him, he has to walk all the way around and then come back, and that takes like 45 seconds or something like that. Something so incredibly slow that we needed to make sure that we talk to our friend there, and our friend's going to help light our way, which is great. So we're trying to figure out a way to get out of this underwater mess. And luckily we see what appears to be a submarine, but it's guarded by a giant octopus, you can see there. So that's not going to quite work out. But unfortunately for us, we're going to try and circumvent the octopus to get onto the submarine, and it's not going to go well. We're going to quickly find out that the submarine and the octopus are in on this together, and we're going to get captured by the octopus in the submarine and brought to Domino's lair. Because coincidentally, the octopus and the submarine and Domino all work together. So interesting stuff here. We got a little bit of cutscene goodness here, so if we happen to have a quick donation, now's a great time for that as well.
Sadly, we don't have a donation, but speaking of that, I wanted to remind you that we have a lot of amazing bid wars going on. Next one will be for the next game, which is on our schedule, which will be Lena's Konception Sacrifice Ending. And you can still choose between the 32-bit art style and the 8-bit art style. Currently, 8-bit is in the lead by $10, so if you want to change that, go ahead.
Yeah, very good. Get in those donations towards those excellent bid wars especially, but also just for such a great cause. So Domino has kind of a work camp going on. Domino's not a good person, as you could have imagined. So unfortunately, these little angels are being held captive by Domino in this work camp. So obviously you can tell not a very good person, but we convinced them to throw a little pickaxe at us, which is going to be very important. This is the RNG component to year 3, by the way. We have to make it so that Meche, this is Meche, by the way. Meche will drop some ashes onto her own leg by accident instead of the ashtray. And that is because we need the stockings that she's wearing. And we need them to be able to trade for some very useful items. There we go. So the reason why it's RNG, it's all dependent on where you get into the run and what cycle it is. So unfortunately, it took us three tries to get it, but you can get it on the first try, which saves us a lot of time. Unfortunately, we didn't get that though. But finally, we have our stockings. And the little pickaxe that we grabbed at the beginning, as well as the stocking, are going to be 2 items that we trade here. Unfairly so, if you ask me, because we're going to get way better deals for the 2 items that we have. But we're going to grab these items. We're going to head on over here. We're going to talk to our friend here, who is our little lantern buddy. We're going to trade him this tiny little pickaxe for this high-powered drill that he's using. But, you know, he seems to be happy with it, I guess. And then we're going to trade him the stockings that we got for a gun. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, UKSG. I can't. But it's very useful for us, so I'm not going to complain too much. And then we're going to return to Meche, who, like I said, by the way, that is Meche. And Meche is also being held captive by Domino here. This is a very interesting thing going on here. I've never seen this visual glitch before, where like I just was like holding something inside myself. Yeah, but Meche is also being held captive, so we need to not only free us, but we need to free Meche as well, which is what we're going to be doing. Meche is being now held in this vault. And there's actually a little bit of a puzzle here that I'm going to just solve, and then I'll kind of go into it a little bit more after. So 1 second here while I just focus on this. Okay, there we go. So we have to line up the tumblers in a way that the side gap is completely exposed, which, based on RNG completely, can be really difficult to really easy. The bottom 2 tumblers were lined up already, which was really nice, but the top 2 tumblers are highly sensitive, and I could not get them to line up properly, but we finally got there. We purposely lock ourselves in the same area because we can't seem to find where Meche is, but that's because Meche was behind a hidden door, which makes sense. And then we're gonna lift up this axe. We're actually going to do a bit of a speed glitch here. Oop, I accidentally bopped out of the speed glitch, unfortunately. Basically, you can like triple and quadruple your speed while you drag this axe by hammering on a transition point as well as using your movement keys at the same time, because the game gets confused as to what's supposed to be moving, so it just doubles your speed. But I accidentally toggled the movement speed by nudging it with my finger, so I immediately bopped out of the glitch, unfortunately, but we made it work. We dragged the axe over because it's heavy, and we have also discovered that this suitcase is full of Class A tickets to the afterlife. There is obviously some kind of scam going on here that we need to get to the bottom of, but first we need to get to safety, so that's what's most important. So Meche, we've got Meche safe, and we don't see it because we skip all the cutscenes. But Glottis was actually thrown off a cliff, so at this time we believe Glottis to be no longer with us. However, we're going to find out that quickly that is not the case. Luckily, Glottis was able to fall on a wrecked ship below. So Glottis is going to repair the ship so we can get out of here, and we're going to help him with that. Even before we know that Glottis is alive, we're going to help him with that. So we're gonna grab that, we're gonna go up into the crane and make it so that this bucket drops here. Now you're gonna have to trust me, but we're going to use that high-powered drill thing to separate the chain from the bucket, but we're gonna skip the animation for it so we don't actually see that it happens. But trust me, it's happened. This chain and this bucket are no longer connected. But we're gonna head back up into the crane, and we're going to raise and lower the chain again so it gets caught in these spinning gears, because these gears are what we're going to use to help repair the ship. And we're going to raise the chain again, and then we're going to move the chain all the way back here so that we can raise the ship itself out of the water by getting the chain wrapped around the anchor of the ship and then pulling it up. So we're going to hop down here. The reason why we have to walk so slow there is because we're fighting the current. And that is, the current changes when we flip this lever. So there's the chain. We got it down near the anchor. We're going to flip it again to reverse the current so it gets all knotted up. Like that. And then flip it a third time so that the knotted up chain moves forward and coincidentally hooks right around the anchor. So we're going to hop back into the current. And as we are going with the current now, we can move quite a bit faster. All right, so now we got Glottis, we have the ship. The last thing we have to deal with is Domino, which we're not going to deal directly with Domino. We're going to wound the octopus submarine. And we make it so it crash lands. We're actually right next to the gates of the afterlife, coincidentally. What is happening? Keep going. There we go. All right, that was odd. All right, so we grabbed this mug in one of the coffins that has crashed with us that's filled with that same packing material that we used at the beginning of the game to sabotage the mail system in our office. Glottis, meanwhile, is under the weather significantly because, as we mentioned, Glottis is a speed demon, and Glottis's nature is to go fast, which we can all sympathize with, I'm sure. However, we haven't had a vehicle for quite some time, and Glottis has not been able to utilize his life's purpose. Therefore, he is starting to grow sick because he can't fulfill what he needs to in life. But we're going to change that very quickly by discovering some rocket fuel. The packing material, as it turns out, is very flammable, which is great because right now we are stuck at the gates of life without any tickets through. So we need to backtrack a little bit in order to get some tickets and then return here so that we can move on to the afterlife finally. So we help these little demons discover rocket fuel. All right, and then coincidentally, we have now arrived in Rubikaba. And I also mentioned, I don't think I mentioned this, we are now in year 4, so we're approaching the end of the game here. But yeah, so like I said, we had to backtrack so we can get some tickets. We need to make our way all the way back to the office that we were at the very beginning, but we can't get there fully without the rocket car, which is being held in Rubikaba. So we need to get need to get access to the rocket car so we can get there. So we're back in Rubikava, going to unlock the rocket car. However, it's being held captive by dominoes, if you could believe it. So there's a big like stacks of dynamite attached to the back of the rocket car, and there is a long string of dominoes that, if they are tripped, will then set off the dynamite. So we cannot walk just and get right to the rocket car without, you know, having a lot of problems. So we need to somehow circumvent the domino trap, which we're going to do right now. So we grabbed some nitroglycerin, or liquid nitrogen. I don't exactly know which one it is. One of the probably liquid nitrogen, because it freezes things. I'm not a science person, as you might be able to tell. And we're also going to grab the ship in the bottle that the captain has been working on pretty much throughout this whole process. And then we're actually going to head back into the Blue Casket, our old jazz bar, but nobody is here. More importantly, we're going to use this ship in a bottle as a vessel to pour what is called lumbago lemonade, which is some kind of alcoholic lemonade in here. And if you remember, someone among us is a little bit of a lush, so we're going to be utilizing that a little bit. The solution to this puzzle is a little bit unorthodox, but trust me. One thing I've been doing this entire time, as in terms of speed tech, and I have not really mentioned it at all, is something that I call tanking through, which basically means that I'm tanking through these transition points. So for example, when I walked from the last area into this area via this bridge, I clicked on it in order for Manny to start walking there, but as I approached the actual transition point, I swapped it to motion controls. The reason why I do that is the game gets a little bit confused as to what your movement is supposed to be there. So it actually skips a lot of animations. A lot of times you might see it because there are some points that you can't even tank through regardless of what you try. That whenever Manny enters an area, there's like a 2 second delay where he just kind of like stands there for a second, a little bit of an idle animation, and then you gain control of your movement. But by tanking through, a lot of times we skip those animations. All right. By the way, the solution to that puzzle is to get Glottis to drink the lemonade, throw up all over the dominoes, which you would think that's going to knock over the dominoes, right? Obviously, but no, it creates a perfect coating over the dominoes so that they're still standing. And then all we have to do is freeze the lemonade so that we can then walk over it. It all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. All right, so as you can see, we're in the underground of our building, which has looked quite a bit different because as the game makes certain in terms of theming, whenever mobsters take control of something, they have to turn it into a casino. So this office is no longer a travel agency; it's more of a casino and entertainment facility. But the head boss in charge of this whole conspiracy of stealing tickets and giving it to the rich and people who are corrupt in order for them to get first class tickets to the afterlife is going to be at the top of this building. So we're going to need to get there. Unfortunately, because this is our old office building, we're very easily recognized. So we have to disguise ourselves first. So first things first, we're going to get some cool face makeup, just like these casino dancers. However, to get face makeup, we have to sabotage one of them so that we're put in the show instead. So we grab that coffee pot, climb to the top, and pour coffee on them from above so that they don't know where it came from. Again, it all makes perfect sense. Don't think too hard. Great. So now we're going to head in here. And now we have our face paint, but we are also too recognizable with our clothes. Manny loves this coat apparently, and it's too recognizable. So we got to get a new outfit as well to make it so we're definitely not recognized. If you're questioning what just happened with me putting a bone hand into a grinder of sorts, you're right to question it, because that's a little strange. But as we've alluded to before, bone in reaction with fertilizer has a lot of interesting effects in terms of sprouting, which we're going to be utilizing a lot. You can vaguely see under Glottis's car here that there is this green stuff, which is actually fertilizer. If we used our bone grinder there, we could see how it reacts, and we can kind of create a track, which leads us all the way through here. And luckily, we only have to utilize the last step of the track in order to progress the story, which is great. So we just get to the very last step and then use the grinder, as opposed to following a trail of breadcrumbs, as it were. We have to be very specifically slow and diligent here. For whatever reason, this particular sequence has a very high chance to soft lock if you go too fast. That means, for whatever reason, the game forces you into your inventory in order to pull out the remote that controls the hydraulics of the car. As opposed to just like pulling out the remote normally, like we've been doing with all of our items. But for some reason, that inventory scene is particularly glitchy. So if you try to back out of that screen too fast, you soft lock there all the time. So we have to take things purposely a little bit slow. But then we hydraulic the gator's tail down so we can pass right on by. And this is the florist, who is kind of like a weapon supplier to the mob boss. And he's hiding because he thinks we're coming after him. And the way we circumvent that is we remove the stuck piece over his bell and then come back in. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I have a customer. That's got to be a customer, right? And he supplies us with some gun and ammo. Another disappearing head glitch for no reason for a second. And then we're back in the sewer here with the rocket car. So now we have some ammo, we have some face paint. We still got to get a different outfit so that we can approach the mob boss here. Mob boss's name is Hector, by the way. So if I refer to it as Hector going forward, you'll know who I'm talking about. So we got, like I said, we got to get some outfit. We have to get some outfit. That's not a sentence, but you know what I'm trying to say. We got to get a new outfit. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to head down here. And this is Meche in disguise. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell Meche to give us this toga that she has in her hand. And we're actually going to throw it over Charlie's head. This is Charlie back from year 2, if you recall. Big casino guy. And while Charlie is indisposed, we're going to talk to the secret operative over here. You're meant to talk to him before you throw the toga over Charlie, but you can actually talk to him during it because Charlie has to go through this long rigmarole of getting out of the blanket on his own. So while we're waiting for Charlie to do that anyway, we'll just complete this conversation, which saves us time. And then this operative will sabotage the machine here to make it win, so that when Charlie gets out of the toga, he will see that he has won a bunch of money, which means that he feels good to leave the casino now because he's won. For some reason, they'll be ready to go to the toga party now, which is going to cause Charlie to change clothes. And like any normal person would, they're going to leave their clothes in the bathroom, which feels strange, but you know, whatever the case may be. We're gonna get those clothes. And there's actually the RNG point of year 4 is coming up here, and I'm gonna actually focus on it a little bit. So if we happen to have any donations, plugs, incentives, things, anything that we can discuss regarding the marathon, now would be a great time for that. Wow, we actually got the best possible RNG there as well, which is wonderful. So just before we get into any donations, plugs, incentives that we might have, that is the RNG sequence. Basically what happens there is the guard of the door will not let us through to talk to Hector unless we can answer a question proving that we know Hector a lot. The answer to that question is always a number. And the answer is placed on the bingo board that's directly behind us, and it is random every time. So what you hope for is a low number, so you don't have to scroll to find the number. And it could be any number between 1 and 34. So obviously there is a long range of maybe having to scroll through several pages. Luckily for us, the answer to the question was 1 this time, which I never get that lucky. So that's really, really good. But yeah, if we happen to have any donations, plugs, incentives, now is still a really good time for that.
All right. So I'd like to remind you all that we are raising money to support Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. They achieve this through education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. 100% of all your donations will be supporting Crisis. So keep it up, keep it going. It's for a really good cause, especially in times like this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Wonderful cause. Continue to get your donations in for this wonderful event and wonderful cause. We're actually getting really close to the end of the game here. This is the last scene that we're going to be involved in the game. So we have about, I would say, roughly a minute or so left, if I had to guess. All right. So we skip a cutscene there where Hector is actually trapped himself inside the greenhouse in order to keep himself safe. And when we approach the greenhouse, he actually shoots us. So we're about to be sprouted. But luckily we had a little bit of that liquid nitrogen left so that we kind of like cauterize the wound so that we don't get sprouted. And so that's how we end up saving ourselves here. That is actually the head of Salvador, who is the head of the resistance group, if you remember. Without going into it too much, we were betrayed by somebody and then taken to Hector, which is why we weren't able to confront Hector directly at the office. We were betrayed. And we need to figure out a way to take care of Hector in the greenhouse, but we can't do that necessarily because anytime we step near the greenhouse, we're gonna get sprouted. So we gotta circumvent the way around it. So we used this ticket that it popped out of the case in order to get to Salvador's body, which is buried right here. And the reason why we need to get to Salvador's body is because he has the key to the trunk inside his pockets. The trunk has some weaponry that is going to be very useful for us. And for some reason, we can, while we're going through the animation of picking it out of his pocket, we can also start moving. I don't really know why, but we utilize that. And we're going to grab some weapon and ammo out of the trunk of this car, which you might be thinking, oh, we're just going to use it on Hector, right? We're going to get into a shootout. Not necessarily. We're going to do it a little bit more unique of a puzzle solve here. As I mentioned, by the way, time is coming up very soon, probably within the next 30 seconds or so, if I had to guess. So we're going to use the gun, and instead of going straight to the greenhouse, we're actually going to go over here because if you recall, with the greenhouse, typically it's full of fertilizer, right? Because they have to manage some plants. So we're going to use that to our advantage. Instead of shooting Hector or fighting with Hector, we're going to shoot this tank, which is full of fertilizer, and it's going to fill up the greenhouse. And since we are made of bone, there's going to be a very interesting reaction where Hector is going to be defeated. And time is going to come up after my last input here, so get ready. And time. There we are. Little last few cutscenes here. I always like to emphasize this next part after Hector explodes here. Which is we finally get on our silver bullet train to the afterlife after thwarting this conspiracy. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for to the UKSG team for having me be a part of this event and helping raising money for such an excellent cause. I really appreciate them selecting this game in particular. This is a wonderful game. Please play it casually if you hadn't. It's got a wonderful story, wonderfully acted, and like I had mentioned before, you can play it on any console, and it's very affordable, so you can play it anywhere. If you're interested in speedrunning this game, we don't have a Discord, as the community is very small, but feel free to reach out to me personally, and I'll be happy to help you with anything that you might need in terms of resources. And if you like speedruns of this nature, or I speedrun a few other fun games like Pokemon and Bug Snacks and stuff like that, come on by twitch.tv/Konception2, and I'll be happy to have you. But otherwise, thank you so much to the staff and crew for putting on this event, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. It was an amazing run. Again, I was really hyped for this game to see it run, and definitely did not disappoint me.
I'm glad to hear
really
that.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So, if you don't have anything else to say...
Nope, we got our